we were saying this before, but like it becomes so serious. But if you really think about it, you're just sat there on your sofa or you're laying in your bed looking at the wall. Do you know what I mean? And I know inside your head it's like could be chaos. But really, you just need to get back into the real world and do something to remind yourself that you're not in your head. Because like we said in the last episode, you are not your thoughts, but sometimes they can just run away with you.
This podcast is in memory of our friend Lee. After a long battle with depression, Lee took her own life. We started this podcast in the hopes that we can continue her advocacy for mental health, breaking the stigma of talking about struggles, and to hopefully help as many people as we can. We would love it if you would donate to Lee's GoFundMe, which will go towards the prevention of cyberbullying and helping others who are suffering with mental health.
Welcome to the Brothers Podcast. I'm James, this is Craig, and this podcast is here to make sure that when someone dealing with mental health needs a brother, they'll have one.
Yeah, boy.
Oh, that's so lovely, isn't it?
That's great, that, mate.
So on these podcasts, we'll share our own experiences and struggles with an array of mental health issues, hopefully give you some tips and insights into dealing with your own struggles, and ultimately let you know that you're not alone. As corny as it sounds, but it is a huge thing that you're not alone, you know?
Yeah.
And also, we'll try and make you laugh, but I don't count on it. Don't count on it. See? Started off with a laugh. Oh, we're off to a good start. Well, just you laugh, probably no one else. Right. So we gave you a little insight into who we are and what we've been through back in episode 1. So if you're a weirdo that starts at an episode 2 for some reason, head back to episode 1 and check that out first. In the meantime, we'll press on and talk about today's topic, which is
Anxiety. Which James is feeling a lot of right now because he did the intro.
Yeah, and I've been since last night. I've had anxiety because of something else, and it's just carried over now. So it's literally like I don't know if I've jinxed myself by doing anxiety today, but yeah, right now I'm sitting here smiling, feeling good, apart from my chest, which is beating much harder than it usually should be.
Yeah. That's a mad thing about anxiety, isn't it? Sometimes it just drops in out of nowhere. And like, even though in your head you feel okay, your body just like starts doing stuff to you and you're just like, what is going on?
Yeah, I think it's like those chemicals that your brain's telling to, or whatever's happening. You know, I'm quite scientifical here, but no.
Scientifical?
Is that what? Scientifical?
Scientific.
Scientific, yeah. But I'm scientifical. Tomato.
Please subscribe to the podcast.
So, what was I saying? Oh, yeah. So, it's like these chemicals have already been set off. So then even if you can logically tell yourself, you know what, it's fine, there's nothing to worry about. It's like your body's already started doing it. Yeah. So then you've just got to deal with, right, well, how do I just calm my body down now? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, yeah, that's what's happening to me. It's like something totally unrelated. I'm not worried about now at all. But my heart's still going. And I think then because I had to do this podcast intro, oh, Jesus Christ.
You did it, mate.
You did it.
And you're in a safe place. So don't worry.
Safe place, thank you. So, yeah. So, you've suffered with quite a bit of anxiety in general. So tell us a bit about yours.
So mine kind of, like most things mental health related, depression and anxiety always come hand in hand, I feel like. Depression is, sort of overthinking. But there's a quote I saw before and it's like, if you suffer with depression, you're living in the past. And if you suffer with anxiety, you're living in the future. Because I feel like a lot of my anxiety was me running through my day before it even started, and that happens a lot to me as well. So like one example was a job that I hated. I was working in a call center dealing with complaints. So
you hated that?
I know. It's mad, isn't it? It was literally just every day people on the phone just moaning all day, and like it got to the point where people would be like, I want to speak to your manager, and I'd be like, yeah, all right. And I just,
of course they do.
So I'd wake up in the morning and I'd run through the day and I'd be like, right, I'm going to get up, I'll go on the train. I literally like step by step. And the closer I got to work in my head and the closer I got to answering those calls, my heart would just be like, boom, 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 boom. And it was just like horrible. And then so because I'd already done that, by the time I actually got up, you know that thing where you do in the morning, you're like, I'll have more time in bed, and then you leave it. So then by the time you get up, you're rushing and you fucked yourself over because you've just spent time laying there looking at the ceiling. So by the time I actually got into work, I'd sort of built this picture already. So then when it came to taking the calls, I was just instantly anxious and waiting for that person. So like when they got on the phone, I'd just be like, shut up. Do you know what I mean? Ready to snap. Yeah. But yeah, it's that was obviously one of them. And then just, it comes in all forms, like social anxiety. We talked about this before, and you've had a bit of that in the past as well.
I used to have a lot of that, I think, and I think that's what stopped me. It was like it stopped me. It's what made me feel depressed in a way, because I felt like I knew there was like a true self. I kind of knew in my own time. I knew who I could be. Do you know what I mean? And who I could be to the world, or what type of friend or what type of social person I could be. But so I would feel worse about myself then because I couldn't do that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Why do you feel like you couldn't do it though?
I don't know. I was just, because everything I would think or want to say or anything like that, it's all just too processed in my mind. And that's what anxiety is it is just it's overthinking, right? And it's processing too many little things, I think. Do you know what I mean? And like you said, it's thinking about the future too much, that sort of stuff. And that's what this was. So every little comment I would not want to say something or not want to speak up, because then I'd be like, oh, well, what if I speak out and someone else happens to speak at the same time? Then there's an awkward situation where you both speak over each other and I'm just going to have to be quiet. Or what if I say the thing and it falls flat on his ass? Do you know what I mean? Whether it's a funny thing or an insightful thing, whatever it is, you know? So then I would weigh it up every time in my brain, like, okay, am I going to say it? This all happens in like milliseconds, obviously.
Yeah.
But I'm processing, you know, will I say it? Do I say it? Oh, what'll happen if I do? Maybe I shouldn't, blah, blah. And then kind of the time's passed, or the conversation's passed, or the moment's passed, and I'm like, leave it for another day. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And sometimes it got to the point where then I was just socially anxious because I'd hardwired my head that way, and my body would react to it because it knew that, that's what it expected to be anyway. Do you know what I mean?
Right,
Do you know what I mean? So it got to the point where it wasn't about, oh, what if this happens? It was literally just like, well, that's where I'm at now.
Right. So you sort of told yourself that this is you now, and no matter what happens.
Yeah, I guess so. So then automatically I'm just like, oh, well, I'm not the guy who wants to socialise too much, do you know what I mean? Or wants to speak too much. And so that's why I would always avoid going to like, sort of get-togethers that included a lot of people. Like, you know, it's someone's birthday and lots of people are going to be there, and I'd be like, I knew I had to go, maybe because a girlfriend's going or something, but I'd be like, oh, I fucking can't wait for this to end. And I'll just sort of try and make sure I'm sitting next to the person I know.
Yeah.
Try not to do too much more than that. And because I remember this one occasion where I was on a work Christmas meal, and it was from when we were both working in a place where we did nothing, and so we were on a work Christmas meal, and I don't know, you might have been there. I mean, you were on the team. I don't know, but I remember I was getting so anxious anyway sitting there, and then I did end up saying something, or I ended up commenting or saying something, and it was about a girl on our team,
right? And
a girl we both know. I don't know whether I should name names. It doesn't really matter.
What did you call her?
No, I didn't call her. Well, actually, I did. I called her. It makes me feel so bad now.
Why?
No, but it's because we're friends.
Right.
We're friends with her.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
Yeah. You know who I'm saying, yeah?
Yeah.
Right. So
I did hear it through the microphone pretty clearly, yeah.
Well, so we're friends. We were good friends with her, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
She was on our team. We were really close, do you know what I mean? And we can always mess around, and she knows what we're like. So there's those people where you can kind of call an insulting name, but not. But
you're like,
but it doesn't matter.
Stacey, you're a cunt, mate.
You just said the name. I didn't. I said something like, whatever. I said something, but it was just a joke. But I guess in my head it sounded funnier. But then for some reason everyone at the table was a bit like, oh, James. A bit like, that's a bit harsh. But I knew it wasn't. And Stacey did say to me, no, I know what you're like. Don't worry. And I said to her, I'm so sorry.
Oh, poor Stacey.
But she said to me, oh, no, it's absolutely fine. She said, I know what.
And then cried in the toilet after.
I hope she didn't. But no, she said to me, I know what you're like, whatever. I know you're joking or whatever. I know you didn't mean it, blah, blah, it's fine. And I knew she would know that. But everyone else at the table was, say, a little bit more stranger. It wasn't one of our close work meals. It was with other people.
All right.
So then they were all a bit like, oh, James. Honestly, right, so when that happened then, after that, no one noticed it, but oh my God, I instantly had to stop myself crying so hard. I was so upset by it.
Yeah.
And I knew something was wrong. So that was my girlfriend at the time. And then I said to her, I need to go to the toilet a sec. So I went to the toilet, and I was in the toilet, and I was just trying to not cry.
Yeah.
To try and calm down. Because I was so taken back by not being made a fool of, nothing like that. It was like, do you know what I mean? I just felt like I put myself in a social situation. I finally spoke, and it got shot down, which is fine, because obviously it was like, I don't know, different things for different people, whatever. But and I don't feel necessarily too bad about what I said, because I know I was joking and Stacey knows I was joking, but no one else did, and I just felt like the worst, and I felt so bad.
Why did you feel so upset though?
I don't know, because people, I guess it was partly because the anxiety was already there, and then that got in a way proved right. Do you know what I mean? I was already worked up inside because I was in a social situation, and then something happened that made that sort of real and not just in my head. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I don't know, and I was just, even now when I think about it, I can remember how upset I was, and I was just like, it was a horrible feeling.
Yeah.
And that sort of thing then sticks in my head, where I'm just a bit like, I'm just better off not saying anything. Do you know what I mean? And stuff. But it's not like that now. I'm different now, and I work through the social anxieties, which we'll talk about later, with comfort zone sort of challenges and stuff like that. But yeah, that was just one of the social occasions I really remember that really stuck with me, because it hurt. Do you know what I mean? But it was always a lot like that, where I just didn't want to speak. I'd rather not. Or if I did speak, I'd keep it to a minimum. I'm not a fan of small talk anyway.
Oh yeah, I'm the same way.
So yeah.
But it's mad, because like when we used to have these work dues, like everybody used to love when you would come. Do you know what I mean? And
well, yeah.
And like you would never know unless you said that you hated being in those situations. Because I remember one of them, and it was in the summer, and you were drinking like pretty fast, because obviously you were quite anxious. You were smashing loads of drinks back.
Yeah, I did do that.
But yeah, no one. You would never notice. I think that's the other thing about it, is this anxiety is something that can just be so easily like hidden, and people don't know.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you're right there. It can be so easily hidden.
Unless you know, because like I can look at you and know if you're anxious.
And now you can.
I got a funny story actually about when we worked in the bank. James used to, we used to sit right next to each other, and like about 9-10 o'clock in the morning, after we'd been in for about an hour, James would get up and go and make himself a coffee.
Yeah, this didn't help the anxiety, did it?
Fucking mental. This is probably what made it worse.
I'm now on all decaf tea, coffee, everything. So, yeah.
So James would make this coffee, and it was like in a pretty big mug anyway, and like
it was one of those Sports Direct mugs.
It was extra large mugs, yeah. So like he'd have his coffee, and about 15 minutes later, he would just be moving around like almost body popping, chewing his nails, and just like scanning the office like the Terminator, like 100 miles an hour. And I'd be like, "Add your coffee with you, mate." And she'd say, yeah, just buzzing, like almost gurning. And anyway, this happened for weeks and weeks, and then for some reason nobody had ever seen James make a coffee. And then it came to light that he'd been making them with tablespoons. And you were having 2 tablespoons of fucking coffee.
I wasn't experienced enough to know that it wasn't tablespoons.
That is mental. I don't know how your heart didn't explode. Because like if I have 1.5 when I was having coffee,
teaspoons.
that's teaspoons. Yeah, that's a lot. And you're having 2 tablespoons, mate.
I never used to drink coffee before that, so I didn't really know how it.
just making it like a hot chocolate.
Yeah, basically. And I was like, oh well, the more you put in, more flavour, all that sort of stuff.
But we've sort of mentioned this, talked about this before about going on decaf, because I was caffeine is something that massively affects anxiety.
It really does.
And so many people, even if you're just you haven't like suffered with anxiety, if you're having caffeine like frequently, you might notice like you're like, I feel really productive, but you might not notice the palpitations that it gives you. So I was finding that when I was on it, I was like being super productive, and I was peaking. I was like, this is amazing, like getting loads of work done. But then I'd have the massive trough afterwards, and I was just never level. So I'd have to have a coffee, a couple of hours later to feel like more productive again. And I was just like this, like up and down. So as soon as I went on decaf, it just leveled me out. Like I still have tea, which is caffeinated, but I only have like 1 or 2 cups a day. But I'm just decaf coffee all the way now. Yeah,
well, and I recently, only in the last couple of weeks, changed to decaf tea. Because I drink a lot of tea, or on some days I do. I'll drink loads of cups. And then I found out that, because everyone always used to say, tea's got more caffeine than coffee, but I'm trying to be smart and that, And then so I thought, but I always used to think, yeah, but you actually have the coffee.
Yeah.
All you're doing is washing the water past the tea. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're not
I think it's like per
bags.
weight or something.
Right.
Isn't it?
Well, I looked it up, and it is because you're only soaking the tea in it. That's why you're not getting as much caffeine.
Right.
But the tea itself does contain more caffeine.
Oh, interesting.
Or whatever. But obviously, we're not eating the tea and stuff. But I did find out, surprisingly though, and this is what turned me on to decaf, was the amount in a cup of tea is like the equivalent to, it was like a third to a half of a coffee.
Really?
Which is a lot if you drink, like if, say, one day I'll have 6 teas or more probably, do you know what I mean, over the course of the day. That's like the equivalent of going from having decaf coffee and then one day all of a sudden having 4 coffees.
And
I was getting these heart palpitations from it. Do you know what I mean? And and I always used to confuse it with like, for some reason I'm getting anxious and I don't know why. But then I started to realise, maybe it's the tea. Do you know what I mean? Because I drink a lot of tea, because I would start to notice it after I drink the tea as well. So having decaf, that's gone. I'm pretty sure I sleep better too.
Yeah.
I really do. And I ended up having a normal tea the other day, and straight away afterwards my heart was palpitating.
Really?
And if you're not really aware of, maybe, not everyone maybe thinks about what they put in their body or what it's doing to their body. So I think some people out there could easily confuse the coffee or teas or whatever that they're having, giving them anxiety and not realising, because it's the same sort of feeling in your body. So unless you know why it's happening, you can just easily just say, it's because I'm getting anxious again for no reason.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I think it's something worth looking at, definitely. And
I used to like the buzz of, after having a coffee, but thinking about it now, like if I had a coffee, I'd probably fucking have a heart attack, It'd be horrible. Saying that, I actually accidentally had a flat white last year, and I was gone, mate. It was mad. Did I tell you about this? So we met Holly and Josh, me and Amy met some friends for a coffee. And it was when the whole Black Lives Matter thing was coming around. And so we had a coffee, and we went for a walk, and we were sort of sat on this green, and we were talking about that. So it was kind of like really, like, not heated, but like really passionate debate about that. And I found myself just like talking really fast and being like, like really hyped and amped up about it. And I thought it was just because I was so passionate about that. But then as we were coming home, we'd ordered the coffees on an app. And then I realised that we'd ordered like flat whites and not put decaf. And like instantly I was like, oh my God. And like my heart, do you know that feeling when your stomach drops? It was like, and I was like,
that's what
like swallowing, like I was like, I feel a bit sick. Do you know what I mean? Because there was so much caffeine in it. I was just like, I was wired. Like
twice as much.
So a flat white's a double shot.
They give.
That is a double shot of coffee. Yeah,
there you go. So
with like that much milk. So I was just like, so it was mad. Like seeing how it actually affected me. Yeah, I won't touch it now.
Yeah. Well, so there you go. So that's something to consider.
Yeah.
And also, I find this with anxiety and depression and stuff, it's easy, I think, for us to all get so stuck in our ways of dealing or being when we're dealing with mental health, and not realising or willing to accept the external things that could be contributing to it or causing it or whatever, So I think some people could easily be listening and thinking like, it's not the coffee, or coffee's fine, or I need my coffee. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because bottom line is, mate, you don't need your coffee.
Yeah.
Cavemen wouldn't go around having coffee. Do you know what I mean? You don't need your coffee. It's a drug. Still laughing. It's a drug, and your body, just like any drug, gets used to it. Do you know what I mean? And you want. This is why they say drugs are gateway drugs and stuff. Do you know what I mean? Because
drugs are gateway drugs.
Most drugs they say are gateway drugs or other things, because your body, like everything, will get used to it.
You're saying coffee's like crack?
No, but I'm saying you're on coffee now.
Heroin next week.
Yeah. So be careful. All right.
There you go, folks.
But no, seriously though. So try not to just shun off that. Maybe. Because I'm not saying it's only the caffeine or something, but I'm saying, maybe that's something.
Could be a big factor.
It could help, or it could at least help. It could at least help give you that slight little sort of calmness to help you then work through whatever the issue is you're dealing with,
I feel like social media is a big contributing factor to a lot of people's anxiety these days as well, because you're scrolling through your feeds, you're seeing all these people like traveling or whatever they're doing, or physiques, or people are living a life that you might want to live, you think you want to live, and so you start again living in the future thinking, this is what I need to be doing or whatever, and then it just spirals. And I think that is massive now, especially with the youngsters. You know, I mean, we didn't have social media when we
I'm
grew
worried
up.
about the teenagers,
the youth of
nowadays.
today.
Like,
No, mate.
It
Fuck,
sounds
hard.
such an old thing to say, but I am, because I can't imagine what their world's going to be like.
It was hard enough for us back in the day.
Yeah.
You know, we had MSN. That was enough.
Yeah, I know it was. Yeah. Bloody hell. But you're definitely right there, because it's an easy thing to just mindlessly scroll on there, or to use it as inspiration, which is good.
Yeah.
But don't bring yourself down thinking like, why is my life not like that? You know, and oh well, I should be. That person's already in it. You know, they're 25. I'm 30. I should have done more. Do you know what I mean? And it's not about that. We're all different circumstances, but that can definitely add to it, because then you're sitting around all day. Not just are you not paying attention to what you can do to make things better, but you're too busy thinking about what you don't have and what you should, inverted commas, whatever, should have. It's giving you no time to actually work through what you're dealing with right now.
Yeah.
Because you're giving yourself more things to feel bad about and worried about.
Definitely, man.
Some other areas of anxiety as well. We got social, we said. Social. OCD as well is one.
You mentioned that, yeah.
Yeah, and I think OCD is a word that people throw around really easily these days. And I think it is, in a way, all a form of OCD. It's obsessive compulsive disorder. So OCD isn't just things need to be laid in a certain way. You know, your knives and forks need to be whatever in a certain place. It's not just that. Do you know what I mean? It's any thought that is compulsive and just obsessive, you know? So that's why I think it links again. It does link into depression so much, because even when you're having thoughts of like, I don't know, maybe I'm never going to find love or something, or I need a girlfriend, or I need a boyfriend, or whatever it is, that money problems. When you're thinking of that all day long, you wake up and it's the first thing that you think about, and it makes you feel shit and it brings you down. Yeah. All that is, that's OCD, is because you're obsessively, compulsively focusing on this one thing, you know? Yeah. So I think, again, recognizing that and recognizing what OCD is a good way to see your habits, you know what I mean, as you're doing them, in order to try and pull them back and be like, oh well, that's actually just an obsessive thought or something I'm focusing on way too much. Let's try and just direct my thoughts elsewhere. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And again, like everything we're saying, this isn't gonna cure you straight away. This is just doing all those tiny little things which are eventually then going to put you onto a much clearer path. You know? But also OCD is other things as well, like I said in the last episode about flipping switches when I was a kid and stuff. Yeah. But I don't think it affected me that much now, because I only kind of remembered it in my 20s, you know? But it would be a case of I would be a kid, I would walk out of the room, I'd switch the lights off, walk out of the room, and then I'd be a couple of steps away from the door, and then all of a sudden this thought would come into my head, and it would say, what if you don't go back and switch it on and off again, and then your parents die? And then I know, and then I knew, and like I said, I think I'm a logical person, and even then, you know, you probably got a certain amount of logic or whatever, and I did think, well, it's not likely, but I would think, but it's not worth taking the chance. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So I would go back and I'd flip the lights on and stuff. But so maybe that leads on to how your brain then is hardwired for later in life as well. But trying to think through these things as logically as you can, and practicing not doing things. Yeah. Whether it's obsessing on a certain thought or an activity that you're doing. I don't think you'll quite get past it unless you just try once in a while to not do them. Do you know what I mean? Even if it's just once. Do you know what I mean? Just to see what happens and maybe put your mind at ease a little bit more. And that's what the social thing's about, isn't it? Yeah. As well, putting yourself out there. Definitely. Going back to the social thing, would you describe yourself as an introvert or an extrovert? This is a weird... You know what, actually? I'm glad you said that, because I think for a little while I did bog myself down a little bit with thinking, well, I'm clearly an introvert, but I wish I was an extrovert. Yeah. Even though I look at then some extroverts and I think, oh, it looks exhausting. I'd rather still have my own time. Yeah. And then I think I did, like I said, bog myself down thinking, oh, I have to be one or the other, so I'm obviously an introvert. But I think it's absolutely fine and more likely that most people are somewhere in between. You know? You think? I think so. I think we've both got... Don't get me wrong. I think there's qualities of both. Maybe not in everyone. Some people may be further down the introvert line, you know. But I think there's qualities in a lot of us where it is both. but you're swaying towards one direction more than the other. Do you know what I mean? You prefer to be introvert more often than you would extrovert. Because sometimes when I do now get in social situations, I feel quite different, and I feel like I feel quite extroverted sometimes if I'm in the mood, or if I'm not tired, or if I actually like the people. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like I want to be quite extroverted, and I want to have fun and be like, yeah, come on, let's do this. And you know what I mean? Getting too excited, yeah, fucking turn my cameras on. I would say originally I would have said introvert, and I do like my own space, but I think a part of me always liked wanting to be an extrovert, and I think I have opened myself up now to being able to be that as well. So I suppose that's the point there. You know, you're not locked down in one thing. If you want to, you can create yourself. Yeah. You know what I mean? You can literally create yourself.
But I agree with most of that, but what I think the clear difference is between them is, for me, I'm 100% an introvert, but I've got those, you know, I can put myself out there in a social situation and be more extroverted. But I think the difference is, when I come away from that situation, I'm so drained.
Yeah, okay.
I literally need to like recharge for like 2 days. Whereas an extrovert person would go in and be re-energized. They feed off people's energy, not in a bad way, but they get lifted up by being around a group of people. Whereas for me, like, I can do it and I enjoy it, but then I literally need to just be on my own because it's too much for me.
That's
do you know what I mean?
That's a good point then. In that case, I agree.
Yeah.
Presuming that these extroverts are still exhilarated afterwards, and that's probably why some people can party for days.
Yeah, they literally love it. Like, they just love, and some people like, I have to be around people.
Right. Okay, in that case, I agree then, because I would say introverted.
Yeah,
I like to try and be extroverted, but
you like to flirt with extroversion.
Extroversion, but it takes its toll. I definitely am like, oh my god, get me away. Yeah, and to be fair, get me away. Most people are like having the best time of their life. I'm there going, fuck you.
That's literally me.
Yeah, okay. So maybe I'm introvert.
I think that and I know. Sort of, I could see there's two sides, because Amy is completely extroverted. Like, she'll go, well, she likes her own space, but she can go into a group and she loves it. She'll work the room, she moves around, and I'm just there like, I hate small talk. Yeah. I hate those situations. For me, are the worst, because you kind of want to talk to people, but you want to talk about something that you're interested in, or something deep. So I hate like, oh, how's it going? What you been up to? I hate that. But Amy can just go in and just be like, blah, 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 just talk about anything and get the conversation going.
You're going to see people now locally. People will be like, oh, Craig,
what's the meaning of life? I feel like, great question.
But no, you know, I totally agree with that. And now you say it, I do actually, whenever I'm in a family get together or a social situation, I do often, not too often that people think I got the shits, but I pop to the toilet a lot. I pop to the toilet because I need a break. And sometimes I go in there and I don't necessarily, I'm not busting to go or anything, but I just stand in there for just a minute or something. Yeah. I just stand in there just because it's so nice to, this feeling of, and I used to get this a lot when you're depressed, you probably do as well, like you said, closing yourself off in your room. There's something about not talking to people, but actually closing the door, so you've got surrounding walls and doors all around you, and there's nobody, you know what I mean? There's no one going to affect you. And that's quite a nice that was a nice feeling, or it is a nice feeling. And it's fair enough if you want to have a bit of space. So I do still do that, actually, seeing that during social
toilet time.
I do have toilet time, actually. I'm the same. And I didn't think of that. I do. I would like people to feel, anyone listening, that if you are socially anxious, whatever level it is, I do thoroughly believe you can still remain an introvert if that's what you want to call yourself, but I do think you can train yourself to get out of that, because that's what I did. Yeah. And don't want to, blow my own horn. Is that what you say? Or is that a rude thing to say?
Sure.
Does that sound like I'm...
You can blow your own horn if you want, mate. I'll close my eyes.
No, that'd be way too inappropriate right now. I told you, I wanted to be more socially cool. And...
Nailed it.
That's the term. So what I did was I started off by, and this was probably about 2 years ago, 3, about 2 years ago maybe.
Started laying on the floor in the street.
Actually, that is what I did first. You're right. Yeah. I did do that first. I forgot about that. I was going to say something else.
Tips for people out there: if you want to be socially cool, just go and lay on the floor.
Yeah. If you're not aware of this, because I did YouTube for a little while, and it was going all right, but so what I did was this little series of comfort zone challenges, and you can watch them still now. You just search James Hanlon on YouTube.
Yeah.
I think there might be a little playlist of the comfort zone challenges, and they were comfort zone challenges I was actually getting from some other guy or some other YouTuber. I can't remember who he was, and there was a different one each week. And so the first one was to lay on the floor in public for 30 seconds. And I don't know how you feel about that now hearing it, but it sounds, at the time, it sounds terrifying. And we did it, didn't we? Because I had done it and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I did it when I was living in Tokyo, and I did it in the middle of the busiest crossing in the world. So like,
you did it in the...
I did it in the middle. Oh, no. I did it in the little street first. And I was so exhilarated by it that, 2 seconds later, whatever, walked down to the busiest crossing in the world and did it there as well. And I was so into it by the second go that the person I was with had to say, "Come on, quick, the lights are changing," because I was laying in the middle of the road. Do you know what I mean? So
I just thought of, sorry mate, I just thought of when we were doing it.
I know what you're going to say now.
Who was it? Was it me?
Yeah, on the floor, yeah.
So James went first.
Because we all did it again when I came back to Cardiff.
So we did it in Cardiff. You went first, then I went, then Josh went, and then May was last, wasn't she? So May laid down, and this guy walked past, and what did he say?
He said something like,
he's like, fucking dickhead.
Yeah, what's that dickhead doing? Or what's that prick doing? Or something like that. I know.
So
but I think that's a great, that says it all about your social fears are because you're worried about other people's perceptions of you or whatever, how you might be received, all these different things. But the point is even if it goes wrong or someone doesn't like you, or in this case they call you a prick or a dickhead or whatever the fuck they called her,
so horrible.
and they said it as they were literally walking past looking at her, do you know what I mean? And it was hard enough for her to get on the floor and do it. May's like the nicest person ever as well. And it was hard for her to get on the floor and do it, but it didn't faze her, I don't think.
No, she just couldn't believe it. I think she did, but we were just like, what?
But the point is that the worst thing can happen, or that you think will happen or whatever, but it doesn't actually matter, and it won't hurt you.
Yeah, if anything, it's a reflection of that guy, because he's so judgmental that he's like...
of you at all.
Yeah.
Definitely. So that's why the comfort zone challenges, I realised in the end, was so important, because they constantly, week after week, were letting me know that the worst thing won't happen, or if the worst thing does happen, you're literally the same person after it. If you're a better person after it doesn't matter in the slightest.
And it just sort of gives you that buzz to be like, well, if I can do that, then anything else it becomes easier.
Exactly, and that's literally what it done for me. So then what I did from there, I think I did about 4 of them or something. And then for a while then, I don't think I did much. It gave me a bit of a buzz, but I didn't work on actually being sociable. I mean, I can't walk into a pub and lay on the floor as a conversation starter. Do you know what I mean? What's this dickhead doing? Well, hello to you too, sir. What's that tipple you're drinking? You know what I mean? Like,
why are we like in old England?
I mean, it's weird enough already. So obviously they were great for giving...
That's such a funny image. Just got you on the floor in a suit and a top hat. Just
even worse in Barry as well if you do that. Go, fucking me doing, babe.
What accent was that?
I don't know. I'm shit at accents, and I ain't got a clue when it comes to accents. I was meant to be.
You can't even do your own town accent.
All right. Well, anyway, so it's great for the challenges. Were great for just getting me out there and making me realise it doesn't matter, And then from there, what I did was I actually then started working on being more social, and I did that by going to coffee shops. If I was going to buy a coffee, go to Starbucks, and I would go in with the aim of, when I order my coffee, whether it was before I ordered it or after it or during, whatever, at first all I had to do was ask them how they're doing, how their day's going or something. Do you know what I mean? How are you? Whatever. That's all I had to do. And it wasn't as easy as you'd think. I'd walk in and I'd sort of order my coffee, and then I'd be like, kind of, they'd be faffing then doing something, whether it's the money or the coffee or something. And then I'd be sitting there waiting for this staring at them like a weirdo. No wonder they were trying to get away. And then I'd be waiting for this perfect opportunity to say, how are you? Or something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
As if there was a perfect opportunity. And I'd sort of wait so long and wait for this moment that eventually sometimes I'd get to the point where I'd be like, fuck it, I won't say it. Do you know what I mean? And I literally wouldn't say it.
And you'd whisper that to yourself.
And then I'd just be like, cheers, and then just move on to the end of the counter and wait for my coffee or something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but then more times I think than not, I would say, how are you? And then it would build from there.
Go fuck off.
Yeah. How do you think I am? I'm in a fucking coffee shop all day. You know what I mean? Like, but eventually I was like, how are you? And then that grew really quickly because, again, I realised nothing goes wrong. It doesn't matter about your timing. It doesn't matter when you say it. And I'd be walking in, and then I'd go in with you, you know, sometimes now, and well, not now because we're on lockdown, but back in the day, going with you, and then I'd be trying to make a funny comment to the person or something, and a lot of times it would fall flat on its ass. Either they wouldn't hear it, or maybe I'm still a bit scared to say it too loud, or they don't get it, or whatever, or maybe I'm just not that funny. I never thought of that. Maybe it's that one.
Yeah,
but
hate to tell you now, mate. But
yeah, but then we would laugh, or I would laugh because I think, well, it doesn't matter. Do you know what I mean? I tried.
Yeah, yeah.
And but now I love it, and it was a challenge in the end. And I was loving talking to these people, and now I feel like if I was to do, like, I've done job interviews and that, I don't get scared of these things now because I'm literally just thinking they're just people, and I'm just going to talk and be myself, and I don't care now. And socially now, I think I genuinely feel quite confident and great, and I don't mind being silly in public or whatever. You know, I don't want to be a nuisance, but I mean, I don't mind being daft or a bit louder and stuff, because I don't mind. I'm not scared.
Yeah,
to be myself.
And I think that comes through, you know, you doing those challenges and putting yourself out there and realising that all the things that you were thinking might go wrong didn't actually go wrong. And I think that is the case for everybody, where like 90% of the things that you make up in your head never actually happen. Do you know what I mean? There's probably a quote about that as well. But yeah, I think the quote was like 90% of the arguments I have in my head never happen.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And another thing that is sort of happened to me, and Amy both do it, because Amy's had anxiety in the past, is something will happen and then you end up running through a whole scenario of things that you would have done differently, or what you think might happen if you're going to approach somebody, and then it gets to it and you're just like, hello, and then you ask the question you were going to ask and it all goes absolutely fine. Whereas in your head you're just like, it just overplays.
Yeah, and you can think of a million possibilities. Do you know what I mean? And it never happens. Even if it does happen, you realise, oh, well, it's over now, and it wasn't as bad as I thought.
Yeah.
Because that's what anxiety is, I suppose. If you just get anxious for no reason, or you get anxious over certain things, or maybe you're going through a time where there's money troubles or something, it is harder to not feel that way than saying it. But I think what I was meant to say is that it's easier said than done. But I went around it a really weird way.
No, it's true, because my major anxiety came from me getting into debt. And so my whole thing was like, I was working a job that I hated, but I couldn't quit because I had bills to pay. And so that was where mine came from, and it just sort of built up and built up. But the one thing that sort of happened, which we're going to have to take a break for in a minute because I've had pee anxiety for ages, is I actually ended up with this, like, I've got a weak bladder anyway, but I ended up with like, so often. Yeah, I ended up like really bad pee anxiety. I'll tell my story, just a part of it, because I think this is, so I was saying about the anxiety from the debt. So I was in about $8,000 debt when I was working in British Gas. I remember calling this number up because I was just like, right, I need to get out of this. I can't afford to, well, I thought I couldn't afford to sort of keep going. So I called this number. It was like a debt helpline. And I went through this whole questionnaire with this guy. And at the time I was earning like £1,200 a month, I think. And so I did this whole questionnaire, and the guy was like, well, okay, we like finished the thing. And he was like, how much can you afford to pay back a month? So this company would like pay off the debt, and then you would pay them amount a month. And I was like, he was like, this is including everything, like your phone bill, your credit cards, whatever. And I was like, about £800 a month. And he was like, what? He's like, I think you got the wrong number, mate. He's like, this is for people who literally got no money. And I was like, oh shit, well, maybe I'm all right then.
Right.
So from that, I was like, well, I'll just consolidate all my cards or whatever, and I ended up getting a loan. And so it was just a fixed amount for 2 years. I see. It was like £330 a month, and then I had the rest of my wages then to start saving. And that for me was a game changer. And this happened to a friend of ours as well, who he was like, he was in such a bad place, and he wasn't telling us. And I told my story about this debt whilst I went for a coffee with him and my brother, and I won't say his name just in case he doesn't want me to, but he literally, from me telling my story, he literally broke down, and he was like, I'm in loads of debt and I don't know what to do. And I think debt for people is such a huge part of anxiety. It can consume your life. People literally kill themselves because they're in debt. So if you're listening to this and you are in debt, you can get out of it. Like my brother was in debt, and I'm not saying the loan is always the best option, but for a friend of ours, I was like, right, you need to just write down everything, all the debts that you're in, and you need to face it head on, because if you ignore it, and it'll just grow and it'll just make you feel worse and worse and worse. And that was all of his anxiety, was literally just debt. And so I was like, right, mate, let's sort you out then. Like, call this number, we'll write everything down. And like the next day he was like, oh my God, I literally feel like a new person. He ended up like sorting out his money. He didn't owe as much on certain things, and he like made up payment plans. And so he was just on the road then to like, honestly, mate, and seeing the difference in him, he was like a different guy the next day. It was unbelievable. So the same thing happened to me. As soon as I got that loan, my debt was starting to get paid off. And the other thing was I was working a part-time job in Wagamama's, earning a waiter's wage, and I was like, obviously I'm not earning enough. So that was when the PPI jobs came around. So I ended up getting a job in a bank, and it was like £100 a day. I was like, the most money I've ever earned in my life. So we were on like £2,000 a month. It was class. So I was able to sort of start chipping away on my debts, and I think for me that was such a huge part. So my depression and anxiety sort of leveled out a lot more as I got that job, and obviously the job was easier and stuff like that. But the one thing that carried through for me with the anxiety was like this pee anxiety. And the time it started was I was on the plane, and you know when they do this sort of final call for you to use the toilets, I was like a little bit after that, and I was like, oh, actually I need to go. And so I went to get up, and the air hostess was like, no, you need to sit down. And I was like, doom, doom, doom. Like I had that stomach drop, and I was like, oh no. And it was one of those big planes where, you know, like you have a small plane and you're off in like 20 minutes, you're in the airport, you're in the toilet. It was like a huge one. So it was like 40 minutes between landing and getting off. And mate, the anxiety was literally through the roof. And in my head, it was like, you're going to piss yourself in public. Do you know what I mean? And I was like, what if I piss myself? What is going to happen? Like I literally have soaking wet trousers. Do you know what I mean? And so in my head, my mind's going, this is what's going to happen to you. And so I was like, it was horrible. And I managed to make it. And the weird thing about this pee anxiety they've got, I don't know if anyone else has got this, but if I know there's a toilet there, I could literally hold it in for like 2 hours. Do you know what I mean? But because you know someone's like, you can't go to the toilet, or there's not a toilet working, I was just like freaking out. So this other example was me and Amy got a mega bus from Cardiff to London, and we got on the bus. We'd had like a big coffee and a drink, so I was like, oh, you know, there's toilets on the mega bus, wicked, it'd be fine, you know, enjoy the journey. So I went to go, I don't know if I've told you this story before.
I don't know.
So I went to go to the toilet.
There's been a lot of stories with you two involving shitting yourselves, pissing yourselves. So I'm not really sure which one it's going to be.
So I go to the toilet, and the door's locked. I'm like, oh, there's someone in there. It's fine. So go back upstairs. I'm like, oh, there's someone in there. Carried on chatting to Amy. 5 minutes pass. I go back down, and the toilet's locked. I'm like, oh shit, is it out of order? So I go back upstairs. I'm like, Amy, the toilet's still locked. I wonder if it's out of order. And she's like, it's fine. So she could see me start getting anxious, and she's like, oh, let me go and ask the driver, see if the toilet's still going. So she goes down, and she's like, yeah, she comes back up. Yeah, the driver said the toilet's open, it's fine. I was like, did you try it? She's like, yeah, it's still locked. I'm like, fucking hell, maybe there's someone in there then. So literally like 20 minutes later, I go back down, knock the door, and no answer. So at this point, my anxiety is like 4,000. Again, I'm like, I'm going to piss myself on the bus. So I start like knocking the door like really loudly, because I'm like, there's got to be someone in there. And bless this guy. He opened the door. He looked white as a ghost. And I was just like, I didn't care what was going on. And he sort of ran off. I walked in the toilet. No word of a lie. There was a shit in there, like a baseball bat. It was the biggest poo I've ever seen in my life. And he was obviously panicking because he couldn't flush it. I was like, mate, I'll wash it down for you now. Don't even worry about it. And then when I went back up the stairs, he was directly in my line of sight, and he just looked out. He was like looking out the window. Felt so bad for the guy, but yeah. So for me, that's a big one, and like I try and like practice like, oh, you'll be fine. But it's, for me, it's just, I can't control it.
Now as well, yeah.
Yeah, and I try and breathe through it. I try to talk to Amy, but as soon as it gets you and the anxiety gets you, it makes it 10 times worse for me. It's fucking awful. So if you do a big poo in the toilet, don't worry about it. Just let the person go.
I'm desperate.
So things that help then. What for you like helps when your anxiety starts? What do you do? Or is there anything that you do?
I mean, every time I think of these solutions that we're going to try and give people, not solutions, tips, whatever, I feel like it sounds corny, or it's the corniest stuff. But I think there's a reason certain things like breathe are such a popular thing to hear. Do you know what I mean? And I think there's a reason for that, and it's because it does help. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for me, I think the first thing is to try and ration out in my brain that it's not as bad as I think. Do you know what I mean? Or because like if you're worrying, even if you're worrying about debt and that, it's not. Like, don't get me wrong. Obviously, it feels horrible. I know I have been in those situations, but worrying about it doesn't make it better. I know it sounds stupid. You know, everyone says that sort of thing, but worrying about something doesn't make it better, and it doesn't. Do you know what I mean? So trying to really understand that on a base level, that okay, well, worry is not going to make it worse. So why don't I just try and take the steps to make it better? Do you know what I mean? So it sounds corny, but I'd say breathe as well. Do you know what I mean? Just taking a minute to just... And that's why I go for those toilet breaks, you know, in a social situation. Do you know what I mean? Because it's a moment to breathe, just relax everything, relax your brain, relax your eyes, relax your heart, whatever. Do you know what I mean?
One thing I read recently was the best way to sort of calm your nervous system is not just breathing, it's taking two breaths in, holding it for a second, and then breathing out. So you go...
Oh, really?
And if you do that 10 times, like it's meant to slow down your heart rate, because, you know, anxiety comes from, you know, you have a dump of cortisol and it just increases your heart rate. But if you breathe like that, it's supposed to slow it down. And the other thing I find is whenever I feel anxious, you tend to clench. You find your shoulders are bunched up, your jaw's tight. So just try and like make sure that your body's relaxing as well, because you'll carry the anxiety in your muscles and everything. It's not just a mental thing, it becomes physical. Yeah.
Well, recently I've actually, because I've had it's not that bad at the moment, but I've been like having an on and off bad neck now for a couple of weeks for some reason. I don't know, it just came along from too many hours on, like, you know, I was on my drawing iPad thing, and I was on that for like 4 hours, and from then I've had bad neck and I haven't gone away. But now I found that going through a stressful situation recently, or where I had a lot on my mind because I had a few things I had to deal with and I didn't know which direction it was going to go and all this sort of stuff, and I found that the other side of my neck then started burning quite often. Like I'd be driving and it just started burning, and almost like and I realised, well, I was sort of told, but it was pointed out to me by Jess, that it's probably because when we're tense, it doesn't just mean tense as in we're mentally tense. We're physically actually tense.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Our body, without realising it, is tense. And that's what I kind of realised it was. Like I didn't even realise it. And I thought, okay, if I just for a sec try to get my shoulders away from my ears, will they sort of move in that direction? Do you know what I mean? And you'd be surprised by how much they do sort of just drop down, and you don't realise how much you actually are just raising your shoulders up because you're thinking of all these things and you're tense and you're almost closing into yourself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for
and
sure.
I've realised lately that that's been giving me a bit of bother with my neck then on the other side, because it's been burning, because I didn't realise how much I was tensing up, you know?
Yeah.
So taking that moment, like you said, to just actually relax and try and relax the body, I think can help. But otherwise, in those moments, music as well. Even if it's just I'm really anxious at the time and I need a moment to calm down, excluding myself from any company, I do as well. That helps, obviously, because you don't have to think about what they're thinking. Do you know what I mean? So doing that as well. And then in those moments, even if I just put on one song on my phone, whether it's a relaxing one, some Chinese flutes or something, you know what I mean? I
wasn't expecting that. So
I have been listening to some flutes lately. I'm mad for the flute. But
mad for the flute.
It's lovely. I put it on sometimes, and I'm like, for Jess, I'll say, listen to this, isn't this lovely? And I can see she's sort of like, yeah, it's relaxing, but she's also looking at me like, you're so weird. So I listen, and these are like proper, like old school Chinese flutes, like the type where it's like, it almost doesn't sound quite melodic. It's a little like erratic and a little bit like, you know what I mean?
Just what you need when you've got anxiety.
Yeah. No, it's calm.
People going fucking mental on flutes.
But it's the type of thing you can imagine him doing, like these, you know, these dances with masks too. Do you know what I mean? Like it's almost like a theatrical thing. But anyway,
would not recommend.
No, they are calm. They are sometimes they do. They are calm for a while, and then all of a sudden they'll kick off. Like the character in the story, something suddenly happened to him. Do you know what I mean? So you're laying there relaxing, and all of a sudden he goes. You know what I mean?
And then you start looking around the room, freaking out.
But otherwise, I'll put on a tune like a nice bit of old school, you know, Marvin Gaye or something like that. A tune that I really.
Are we just going through your music collection now?
I do. I could sit here all day talking about that. But or a bit of like Marvin Gaye, a bit of something that you like, something that makes you feel good.
Yeah.
You know, and if Scooter makes you feel good, I have been listening to that as well. You know, if it's something that makes you feel great.
I don't know this guy. He just showed up.
Oh, me. But yeah, pop it on. So even if it's a 3-minute song, pop it on, lay down on your bed or something, or put your headphones in, and literally close your eyes and just think about the music.
Yeah.
Just listen to the music, enjoy it, sing along, whatever. Just so you can take your mind away from whatever's made you anxious. And I'm not saying it's going to fix the situation, but at least it gives you 3 minutes to just calm your heart rate, relax your mind a little, and then maybe come back to the situation a little clearer. Do you know what I mean? So you can address it a bit differently. Do you know what I mean?
For sure.
Because anxiety can quickly get ahead of you, and it'll make everything a bit harder to figure out.
Yeah.
Know? So
I feel like as well, going back to sort of the tension thing, anxiety is a lot of built up energy, and sometimes it, you know, if you internalize it, it like turns into, you know, you tensing up. So it's like trapped energy. And I saw this video the other day, and this guy was like, just move around, like stretch your body, flap about, like make noises with you, stick your tongue out. And it sounds mental. Obviously, don't do it in public because you will probably get arrested.
or you could, there's a comfort zone challenge.
Yeah, you could do that. But like if you're in your house on your own and you're feeling anxious, just try that. But like doing something physical, I feel helps. Like going for a walk always helps, especially if you go out in nature. And yoga for me is like a massive one. If I'm like feeling really anxious, I'll do like a yoga session. There's loads of them, like yoga for anxiety. You can literally type that in, and just moving your body, and it brings you back to the mindfulness of I'm here, I'm in this room, there's nothing else. But what anxiety does is it transports your brain, and you think of a million other things to do. Whereas if you do yoga, you're there, you know, you're breathing and moving, and it's like, you know, sometimes hard. So yoga for me is go-to if I feel anxious.
Yeah, I don't know how we haven't mentioned meditation and yoga.
Yeah.
Again, they're one of those things which I feel so many people shun off because they just think of it as a corny thing.
Yeah.
But having done, like, I've done yoga. You do yoga regularly now. I've done it in the past. I don't necessarily do it now, even though I would like to. It's not in my routine. But meditation I got quite into like a year or so ago, to the point where it was really easy to meditate and sort of lose myself a little bit.
Yeah.
But once I actually got into it, and until you've actually done it, and until you've practiced a bit of yoga or just tried it out and given it a bit of time, even if it's a week or two, to actually so you can actually relax into it and feel those real benefits. You don't realize how there's a reason people say do yoga and meditation and stuff.
For sure.
It really is so powerful and so amazing. I don't want this to sound corny, but there's a reason it is thought of as this, like, you know, relaxing guru thing, because it really is
amazing.
good. It's incredible.
It is a game changer.
But I feel like a lot of people, especially guys, probably can easily shun it off as like, meditation's stupid, or it's a load of codswallop. Why did I say codswallop? I don't know where that word come from. A load of shit, don't have, you know. but like I think a lot of guys, especially with meditation as well, can, because we've, you know, if you haven't heard of it, the Headspace app. Headspace is a great app.
Guided meditations and
and it's just, his voice is relaxing, and it's not sappy or anything like that. Do you know what I mean? So, and that's a really great one to use, and it guides you through each sort of episode in a sort of thing, and then you can choose different topics and work through the 10 episodes on that. And you can literally, they can be as long as 10 minutes, they can be longer or shorter, whatever you want. And it's I would highly recommend that.
Yeah, and you can get a trial for like 7 days for free. So
I think, and even if you don't do the trial, you can just get the basic 10 episodes for free anyway. It's on there, which is what I got at the moment. So I couldn't afford last year to keep the whole thing. But anyway, I really think meditation and yoga can really be beneficial for anxiety, depression, for everything, even just to make you feel fitter. Oh, it's incredible stuff. I'm surprised you haven't mentioned it, but maybe it's because I was a bit worried about mentioning it. Do you know what I mean? I'm not sure, but
no, I swear by it. Like it is my routine every morning, yoga and meditation. And if I don't do it, my days aren't quite the same. Sometimes it's all right, but like I honestly feel like if I don't start my day doing that,
but that's because it's your routine. So now you can feel, knowing you've done it, it gives you those endorphins to feel good about yourself and about what you're doing and your efforts and stuff. You know, I think that's what it is as well. Yeah. So if you stop doing your routine, you probably look down on yourself and thinking, well, why didn't I?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So you probably get some negativity from that, not just from not doing it. You know?
Yeah, it's just,
So but so there was that. There's the breathing, there's the meditation, listen to music.
Listen to some flutes. Get the flutes going, like. So yeah, there's heaps of things you can do, but I think it's just, well, we were saying this before, but like it becomes so serious. But if you really think about it, you're just sat there on your sofa or you're laying in your bed looking at the wall. Do you know what I mean? I know inside your head it's like could be chaos, but really you just need to get back into the real world and do something to remind yourself that you're not in your head, because like we said in the last episode, you are not your thoughts, but sometimes they can just run away with you.
So going forward, we were thinking with the brothers that, you know, it might be cool one day when we've got the brothers properly going and we've got meetups happening and things like that. These comfort zone challenges as well are something that we could bring in, you know, and
for sure,
get a group of us meeting up, you know, hiding behind a tree or something while the other one goes and lays on the floor, you know.
Sounds like a weird little cult. Also, if you're going to come to the brothers meetup, don't come with your small talk, because I won't show up. Neither will James.
But no, I wouldn't. No. I feel bad saying that.
I'm joking.
Hear you out. But no, I'm joking. I am joking. But if you just put in the effort just to try some of these things, you know, just a little, because nothing, if you don't change anything, nothing will change. You know, it seems stupid, it seems obvious, but
also just go into the other extreme of anxiety. Because like some people have it where it's like crippling, they literally can't function. But I had an incident where we had a photographer who wanted to take photos of us at the bus and interview us for a newspaper. And the night before, I think I was drinking for something. I can't remember what it was. It was an occasion where I drank too much. And whenever I drink on a hangover, I get really bad anxiety. So I showed up to Amy's house and my anxiety was just like mad. It wasn't so much a bad hangover, but the anxiety was so bad. But Amy got prescribed this drug called propranolol, and it slows your heart rate and it's like a beta blocker. And I took 2 of those tablets, and honestly, it was incredible what it did for my anxiety. It literally just shut it down. And Amy's anxiety was flying because she fainted on a plane once. And so every time we went to the airport, she associated that fainting, and she just thought it was going to happen, and it happened like multiple times. But then when she got prescribed these tablets, she was like, it's just a game changer. She can fly comfortably now, and whenever she's anxious, she's got them there as a backup. So if you are on the other end of anxiety, then, you know, go and see your GP and see if they can help you out with something like that.
Yeah, what I don't want people to feel though is people who just get a bit fluttery from time to time, or whatever, and a lot of people nowadays just want the easy solution. It's the same with losing weight. They're like, oh, I'll go and buy a fat burner. They don't work. Do you know what I mean? But not that these other tablets don't, but do you know what I mean? There's not always an easy solution. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes
what I'm saying is the extreme end of it. Like if you can't function, you need some intervention.
Because also these tablets then can help you get to a calmer place where then you can then have enough energy and focus to implement some other things in life, and hopefully transition into never needing them again.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Of course. That's totally the case. And that's the same, just while I think of it now, it's the same with depression. If you are feeling terrible and you do want antidepressants, go see your GP and give them a go. I stopped them ages ago. I didn't like them, or I didn't want to have them. But I think that's to do with my mind, the way my mind, my outlook. Do you know what I mean? I prefer to try and do it a bit more naturally, if you will. I don't know how you'd say it. It's not naturally, it's not unnatural, but I like the idea of doing it myself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you need to go to doctors, there's no shame in it whatsoever. Get down there, because it's not necessarily going to it's not the bad thing. You're not going to have to be on them forever, but it can just put you in a position where you can then help yourself.
Yeah. And you can, because, you know, a lot of the time with these things, we talked about this before, is a chemical imbalance. And sometimes you physically can't even help it. You know, you can get certain endorphins from training or doing yoga or doing things that will make you feel good. But if your brain is chemically imbalanced, you know, I've got a friend, Emma, who she was traveling full time, but she had major depression when she was in the Philippines.
You don't mind you saying?
No, she's talked about this on her YouTube. Cool. She's really open about it. But she, you know, she went to the doctors and she was put on medication. So yeah, my brother takes it as well, and it's helped him a lot. Do you know what I mean? He trains as well, but the tablets help level out his chemical imbalance.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's different courses. What do they say? Different horses for different courses.
Is that what they say? I don't know. But yeah, so there's whatever method you want to try, but please try some methods. Don't just sit there waiting for it to pass. Do you know what I mean? Or waiting for you to one day not be anxious anymore, or for you to not suffer from it. Because there are things you can do. Yeah.
I feel like as well, we mentioned this in the last one about depression being like a trigger telling you that you need to change something in your life. I feel like anxiety is the same. You know, the anxiety most of the time would be there for a reason, whether it's through a previous trauma or just a situation that you're in. If you don't like your job, that can be one. That was one for me. So no pressure. Hope, but you know, maybe make some changes and take a step, and hopefully this podcast is a little tablet for you to take and enjoy and help your anxiety. Yeah. We can make about 20 episodes just talking about anxiety. There's so many different levels of it.
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
Talking over you as well.
Sure, mate. Let me have my time, look. Happy with that?
Oh, I love it. Yeah, it's great. I can't wait for the next one. We're not sure what the topic is yet.
No, we haven't decided yet.
But
yeah, if you're brand new around here, make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Make sure you leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, because you can't do it anywhere else. 5-star only, please, Drive.
And Instagram, we're over there, probably.
Yeah.
And we're going to try and get everywhere.
What's the Instagram? And don't do half a job.
I said this last time. It was, the brothers_org. But to be honest, by then, I might try and figure out how we can get it to be the Brothers Podcast.
Yeah. Or go on my Instagram. It's Craig Holmes. And then you can click the little thing at the bottom of that.
And also, reviewing it and sharing it and all these things really would be helpful, because we didn't start this to make money. We're not ever trying to make money from this.
That's all he's talked about.
Yeah, so we're going
to be rich, mate. This podcast is going to take us to the top.
Yes, we literally, if this podcast we were saying ever did make money, that money is going to be used to just host events or something. Do you know what I mean? It's going to be used for the brothers. Yeah. So if you can share it, it just means we're reaching out to people that might not know where to turn. There's people out there that could be withdrawn right now and you don't know it. You know what I mean? Because I was very good at hiding what I was going through. So we just want to try and, even if you just post it on Facebook, they might see it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It might help.
So yeah, if you know someone who's suffering, or you think might be, or you find it interesting to listen to.
Yeah, no, I'm joking. That's an absolute joke. That's just me trying to be funny. This is that meal all over again where I slagged the girl off. I'm going to go and cry now.
And yeah, the other thing, quickly just to jump in and mention, is I saw a video the other day, and the guy was saying, like, ask somebody if they're okay, but ask them twice, because the first instance you're going to defend yourself. So if you're one of those people and someone says, how are you doing? And you say, I'm fine. You're not really, but you just say that because that's a normal response. But if they ask you again, that gives them the opportunity to open up and be like, actually, I'm feeling shit and I want to talk about it. Yeah. So yeah, if you feel like you know someone who's feeling like that, just ask them. Ask them twice as well. Other than that, we'll see you next week.
See you soon. Love you, everyone.
Love you guys. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, volume. Obviously, you've got to do the music first. You look terrified, mate. You'll be fine.
I'm terrified. Perfect episode. This is actually anxiety. This is so perfect to start. All right, then.
Ready?
Let's do it.